start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I live by the old code of second floor!
Why look for a scientific explanation when you can put blind trust in an invisible Sky Daddy?
Sky Daddy all the way.
Go watch your crappy sitcom! Turn up full volume, why don't you?
Aubrey, weird, I can't even get through my couch!
Dude, out of curiosity, can I ask what got you into breath work? How did you start?
Yeah, I wanted to say it probably started trying to figure out cold plunges.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So the earliest memory that I have is most likely like Wim Hof, like just checking him out online.
Okay, yeah.
Checking out how to properly do a cold plunge without just sitting there shivering and losing it. So yeah, that's
you do cold plunges pretty often?
Once in a while when they come across it. I enjoy it. I like steaming in the sun a little bit more. I like IR saunas.
Yeah.
But cold plunges have their space where it's healing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard cold plunges are really good for you. And I've actually heard, I watched a podcast actually with Sean Ryan. Andrew Huberman was on there, and he was talking about breath work, and he talks about this thing they call it box breathing, where it's like you breathe like almost in a box, where it's like 5 seconds inhale, 5 second pause, 5 second exhale, 5 second pause, and like you try to like increase that number.
Oh,
and that's how you
as you go.
Yeah, as you go. So
cool. Yeah, I've heard of it being about like 4 seconds each way, but increasing it sounds cool. I'll love to tap into that one.
He was talking about divers and how they have like insane times. I think it was like 20 seconds or something like that. They can, do it really well. It's hard to do. It sounds easy, but yeah, it's just interesting.
Well, welcome back to the Second Floor Experience, everyone. We have an honored guest today. This is Ra. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
Another amazing person that we've just, by the grace of God, connected with. And so happy to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on. And just kind of, we like to give the audience a chance to sort of get to know you as we get to know you too. And so just start us off of like, where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And then we can kind of go into how you sort of ended up at that event that we met you at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in South Florida, moved all over from Fort Lauderdale all the way down to Homestead, South Florida region. And I have moved around quite a bit. So I spent some time short time in Alabama, good amount of time in Texas for military training. And I had the beautiful blessing of living in Italy for quite a bit. That was a divine time. Like
that's crazy.
Showering with the Dolomites from my view and just drives to work through the countryside. And that was super sweet. And then a few years down the road, I decided to travel quite a bit, try to find myself, and kind of left all of my things in Florida, started from nothing, left paperwork and important stuff in mom's closet, and hopped on a flight, and I started my travels in Ecuador. Yeah, so my father's from Ecuador, the land of the path of the sun, and it was beautiful. I spent time in the mountains, I hiked a couple of volcanoes, and ate fresh food, fresh produce from local neighbors down the street, and just disconnected to reconnect. It was a beautiful time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
wow.
It's actually in Florida too.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Yeah, he knew that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit at the event.
Okay.
Fort Lauderdale is pretty far from where I'm at, though. That's like, it's like 4 hours away from Orlando.
Oh, wow.
So maybe a little less, but.
Okay, so you touched on a few things there. So did you go to like regular school? Were you homeschooled? How was that?
I did go through the general education public system.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was beautiful
Florida,
experience.
right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Down in South Florida. Moved around, went to a bunch of schools. Primarily went to Hollywood Hills in Hollywood, Florida, and yeah, that was the public education system. Wasn't a fan of it, but we made it through. We got through, and I decided to take the pathway of the military. So I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and that was a learning experience. You know, it was beautiful, beautiful times. I was in amazing places. I was always protected. Never went to combat or danger zones. Super grateful for that. I was always protected.
Awesome.
And I got to meet some cool people, lifelong friends, and yeah, ate some great food along the way.
Dang.
That's
So
awesome.
you probably spent quite a bit of time deprogramming yourself from going to public school.
That came after the military.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, that came after the military.
So what made you want to go into the military?
I thought about this one for a while, and a portion of it probably had to do with Mom's love for this country and her support in that aspect. And I've also have family members who served, and my stepfather served 26 years in the Army. So I suppose being around that environment, that led me to believe that was the best option for me at the time.
Yeah.
And I probably was. You know, I'm super grateful for the experience and the benefits that I've received to this point afterwards. So no regrets for sure. Amazing times, and beautiful experiences and lessons that have led me to know what I know now.
What was your favorite story, or like what's like the most memorable experience you had in the Air Force?
I mean,
Or one of them?
living in Italy is a blessing. So for sure, shout out to, you know, the organizations out there that combine to collect and unify, that because that's important. It's kind of like the Beyond Borders deal. So it's comprehending that as a unification, politics aside, we can support each other better and strive. So the fact that myself as an American born on American territory, I was able to experience that with Italian connections and allies, like that was a divine time. Yeah.
So you were stationed in Italy during the Air Force while you were working in the Air
Correct.
Force?
Yeah, about 45 minutes north of Venice. And
Really?
yeah, divine time.
And so you were telling me at Lamppost about that place you visited with the windows. What is that again?
Barcelona. Oh, that's the Sagrada Familia Church.
It's been under construction for like...
Yeah, I want to say, if memory serves me right, since about the 30s, 1930s.
So almost 100 years.
Yes,
Oh my
100 plus,
gosh.
definitely. And it's a divine building. It's one of the first times in my life where I first sensed Creator, or I first sensed God. I didn't really grow up religious. My parents never pushed it on me. They have their beliefs and they studied their scriptures. And it wasn't until I walked into that structure for the first time where I sensed it inside of a church. I'd been through dozens of churches before that, gone through catacombs, the whole nine, and been like, okay, cool, history. I see it all, I observe it all. And that was the first time I sensed it physically. It was just a magnificent building, the work of God everywhere, and specifically the windows in that church majorly connected to my heart. And just that glass work, beautiful artistry. And yeah, I actually ended up taking a little piece of it with me, and I got some ink from Barcelona to represent the marine life and that connection with that art.
Man, I love that. Like when I went to London for like 48 hours, I really resonated with what you say, because the architecture there is so cool. It's so much older than pretty much everything that we have here, and they have very strict laws around what you can do to the outside of buildings, especially in the city. But even going outside of the city was just I felt like a kid. I was just drinking in this amazing architecture, and it really does change the way you feel and the way you experience everything. And I feel like in America, we miss out on a lot of that. It's just all this bland. Sometimes it can be very bland architecture, in my opinion.
This land does have beautiful history and beautiful culture. And the thing about matter, whether it's a desk, whether it's a living structure as a wood made into a chair, it holds memories and it holds experiences. It holds an energy that should be kept and preserved. And what history is his story. The victor gets to decide what is left. So in terms of architecture, it holds energy and memories. And it's a beautiful thing for us to come back X amount of years later and be able to see it again, be able to experience it, be able to feel it, of what may have gone and what may have occurred, what love may have been made there. And specifically for me in Barcelona, in the Gothic region, the Gothic area, they have amazing architecture, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And the city's massive, and they have beautiful cultures and so much more than just that region, but that's where I mostly stayed, and it was absolutely beautiful. And that's kind of where my love for architecture and infrastructure is kind of sparked a little bit.
And so what was your, like, what work did you do in the Air Force?
I was a heavy equipment operator, so horizontal construction.
Nice.
So we did concrete, asphalt, runway repairs, stuff like that. Working under the civil engineering squadron.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool, like blue collar work, laid back. So pretty grateful for that, because the Air Force tends to be known as a chair force, like pretty chill on computers kind of deal. So it was a privilege that I didn't get to experience that. And I was able to be outside in the elements, working with dirt, playing around, like literally like a kid with Tonka trucks, just big Tonka trucks with diesel.
Dude.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you went in when you were 18, I'm guessing?
I ended up, departing for basic training at 19.
Or 19. Okay. And then, so you were in the Air Force for 4 years.
Correct.
Stationed some different places, really cool. And then you exited around 23?
2020, I was 23 when I departed, separated from the Air Force.
Okay, so where do you go after that?
So my last duty station was in Louisiana. Shout out to Shreveport, it's
Nice.
great. Yeah, it's a great place,
Dang,
amazing food, really cool people. And the Bossier Shreveport area showed me immense love. I actually ended up participating in yoga there for the first time. And it was the beginning sparks and sprinkles to finding myself. I didn't even realize that till years later, but just the physical movement of going through yoga to take care of my joints and ligaments and muscle recovery led me to move my body and comprehend the electrical magnetic system a little bit more and maneuver energies that may have been stored in certain places that I didn't know consciously. And that's a beautiful recognition and understanding that I have of that experience of just going to a yoga class to comprehend it and the amazing benefits that I've received from that. I'm literally just moving my body and taking a couple breaths.
What are some of those benefits?
I would say moving the energy through the body. We may have pockets of stored energy in certain places, whether that be a knee or an ankle, or this hamstring has been hurting for 6 months and I can't comprehend why. And in a certain yoga pose or in a movement where one is moving the lactic acid through the muscle, energy is moving through. It may just be seen in a scientific form of, lactic acid is just being released and XYZ. Or it can be seen in an energetic standpoint of what we are. We're an electromagnetic nervous system. And if we're releasing and maneuvering that stuck energy from that point, we're allowing ourselves to feel part of ourselves that we may have been ignoring.
So you mentioned that yoga was this class was sort of the beginning of this journey of finding yourself. What was that next step afterwards in this journey look like?
I would have to say breath work.
Okay.
Going back to breath, going back to spirit. As we inhale this oxygen that is provided from plant life and the mycelium network that is around us and the living beings that we interact with that provide us oxygen as we provide them carbon dioxide. It's a beautiful, beautiful symbiosis relationship, and breath and just being allows me to clear my mind and really go that much deeper into my true self and be able to experience those pockets of energy, or just sit with my true self for a little bit and get a break from this exterior visual 3D realm that we're in, just to be able to navigate.
And so when you left the military, did you go back home for a little while before you left for Ecuador, or what does that span look like?
I did. So I would say I separated April of 2020 and mid-COVID. So got a beautiful, it was actually a great experience. I have no complaints about that time. I was with a beautiful partner at the time, and we got to exercise, be outside. We were by shout out to the Red River, such a beautiful, beautiful source of water that brought me much healing at the time that I may have not comprehended as such, but I felt it at the time. So just being able to run next to that river, I was donated some bicycles that I fixed up and worked up, and we're just on the trail, experiencing outside, doing breath work outside, working out. And that's all we really needed at the time. There was obviously no gyms, they weren't open. So we just had our little apartment. We got to watch movies, connect, and just run on the trail and connect to that water, to the life, to the oxygen, to the trees that are always there, always around. And we could just step outside, and anywhere we look in any direction, if you pay attention and try to focus, there is life. It's not just the concrete buildings, it's not just the metal automobiles, the diesel, the petroleum moving around. There is life always there. And it's important to be able to connect. And that was a time for me to be able to reunionize with that and see it from a different aspect, and be super grateful to just have that time and space to just be and work out and have that symbiosis connection with oxygen. Something as simple as just running and moving allows the brain to oxygenate itself that much more and be that much more focused and sharp.
And so you said the Red River, like
Red River, yeah. It's if I'm not mistaken, it goes in between Bossier City and Shreveport in Louisiana. Gotcha. And I believe it does connect to the Mississippi later down.
Okay. Wow. So you're April 2020 there, and then I'm just trying to get the timeline in my head. And so you're having this amazing time during COVID, and then when do you decide that I want to start traveling?
Being in the military, I got my travel bug, because being stationed in Europe, it's super easy to country hop. And shout out to Ryanair, super cheap flights, get around. And if you're in your early 20s, definitely go out there, man. It's more possible than you think. And that travel bug was just there for me. And I was transitioning out of the Air Force. I was trying to find myself in what I was meant to do professionally, life-wise, who I truly was, kind of going through that exploration phase. And my father's homeland called me. So it was time for me to make a transition over there and experience life, experience my culture that much further, being able to be on the land, connect with it in that much closer connection, being able to just take hikes on my own for endless hours with no schedule, nowhere to be, just being able to connect with the land there, being able to comprehend different trees, different species, brought me much closer to myself.
You're mentioning a lot of like sort of reconnecting with yourself and sort of an exploration of what does Ra really want? What does Ra really, like, what's sort of like your place in the world? And I'm curious because I think a lot of people, especially in their early 20s and late teens, struggle with that question. And so could you speak to more of like, I mean, I see you right now and I see you as like this person who's really connected with that, and you seem to be pretty at peace with your place in the world. What was it like for you before all of that?
I would say there was a bit of anxiety there. There was a bit of depression from the early teenage years. I kind of still dragged along with me, and I didn't really comprehend it. As I maneuvered through this general education public system that places us into a workforce and the life that comes with that. I didn't see my place in it. I didn't comprehend it. I didn't feel as if working for others to their benefit that didn't align with me felt proper in my body. So I would recommend for individuals just to sit with themselves a little bit more. Give themselves space from whether it be a digital attachment of a phone, whether it be a habit that they consciously know of, even if it's subconsciously there, they're aware of it, and just separate themselves from it. Whether it be staring at a food that we no longer want to consume for 60 seconds, just to give themselves 60 seconds to stare at the food prior to consuming it, and just being aware of what they're about to ingest. Or whether it be a certain web browser or a device that they know they may be over consuming or spending a little bit more time than they would like with, just to give themselves a break before they enter that space, and just take a couple of breaths and be aware of what they're about to do.
Yeah, it seems like clearly you're someone who is very in tune with, you know, kind of like mindfulness and nature and those kinds of things. So I'm just curious as to, and that's kind of like your route as to how you've you know, been on this journey of like finding yourself, right? And it's just I'm curious because some people like take different routes, right? Like some people go down the church route, some people go down like art or, you know, work or whatever like passion that leads them to that of like, okay, this is who Zach is, this is who Ra is, right? Whatever. So I'm curious as to what led you to that. Like what sparked this whole interest in, you know, connecting with nature, connecting with the life all around you? Like, was it someone that inspired that in you, or was that just kind of like a natural thing that developed within you as you grew up, or what do you think?
I would have to extend gratitude to my ancestors for that one. I feel like those who came before us guide us, even if they are in the unseen, they guide us, and we should listen and tap in with those messages. And I've been protected throughout my whole life in ways I may not have known at the time. But looking back, I can say, thank you. I see what you did for me there. Thank you for being there for me. You know, and as those who come before us and the leaders who guide currently in this 3D realm, they say that we're here to do it for the 7 generations before us and the 7 generations after. So in that same form, I feel like it's my duty to be able to listen to them as they speak and serve all of our brothers and sisters, right? We're all just children of the source. We're all light beings as we are in our inner essence.
Yeah.
And being able to unionize and connect, be able to listen to each other and truly be connected and tap in and feel each other's hearts and guide each other home along the way. I feel like that's where it's at. That's what my duty is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interesting because people, I mean, at least in my circles, like people don't really talk like that very often anymore. Like I don't really know a lot of people who even talk about their ancestors a lot, which I think further back in history, that was something that people were very, very aware of and talked about a lot, and was very, you know, like their ancestry was a big part of their lives, especially within like Native American history, all that. And that's just not something I feel like we talk about very often nowadays. And so when you say ancestors, are you meaning like just like kind of in general, like the people that came before us, or are you speaking specifically to like your family line and like people that you, I guess not like know, but that you know of?
I see it as parallel lines that are the same, even though they might be different. Genetics wise, we may store physical memories, right? That when they go down into our genetics, whether it be down to the cellular level of our bloodstream, of whatever the physical land vessel may contain, there's genetic memories there. That may be a path. I'm not completely certain of what's above exactly, but that may be a path. At the same time, it's all who came before us.
Okay.
Time and space works a little bit differently there, but all those who came before us made acts and sacrifices for us to be able to do and be who and what we are in this moment.
For sure, yeah.
So those messages that get left throughout time, it's important to be able to observe them and read them and be grateful.
Yeah. I think this may not be exactly what you're talking about, but for me, I've had a similar experience recently with reading some of my grandpa's story, I guess that you would say, and how sort of like where he grew up. And his dad, my great grandfather, who I'm named after, came as an immigrant from Italy, and then ended up getting schizophrenia. And like my grandpa's mom was really, really poor and like couldn't read, and so he grew up in poverty, and then eventually worked his way up into he joined the military, went to West Point and became an officer, and then worked his way into being in the special forces in the Green Berets. And getting to kind of read his words of his story, there were so many points where I was like, oh, like that's why I do that, or that's why I am the way that I am. And wow, if my great grandfather would have never had the courage as a teenager to get on a boat by himself and come here, then I probably wouldn't be here. Like my mom wouldn't be here, and then I wouldn't be here. And so in that sense, I definitely relate to what you're saying. And it gave me a new appreciation for like life, like in general, my place here. And I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense, where we get so wrapped up in just the distractions that are all around us, that it really can take us away from the gratitude of how we even got here in the first place.
Yeah. And just being present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Right.
Yeah. I do. I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I do think there is something to genetic memory, because I've read so many articles, not so many, but a number of them, where people have had organ transplants, and there's like records of them experiencing memories that they received the organs from, which is actually crazy when you think about that. So, yeah, I think there is something to, this whole idea of consciousness and memory not just being stored in your brain, but somehow within literally your genes, like within your genetic code or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but it's fascinating. So like I do wonder how much of that, whatever that is, gets passed down like through your family line,
Yeah, that is interesting. So you mentioned off camera that you've had some experiences with plant medicines, and that you are okay just talking like not about the experiences themselves, but about like you doing them. And so did you first experience that in Ecuador, or and like did you do ayahuasca or what?
No, on my father's land, I haven't consumed medicine yet. As I've traveled throughout the world, I've had experiences where leaders and guides have extended the invitation to sit and connect with the medicine. And it's not something I plan. It's not something I set a travel date to, and I'm going to go and experience this retreat. It's more so just been along the path as it's been there. I've listened to whether it's a yes or a no, and been able to connect connect with the medicines, beautiful medicines that are there to heal whatever we may have inside, whether it may be the heart, whether it may be clearing the mind, whether it may be a physical detoxification. It doesn't always have to be psychoactive.
Mm-hmm.
There's medicines like all around us. Like if we even look at aspirin and where that came from, it came from botany and the study of plants. And that goes back to just a connection and a symbiosis with it, remembering knowledge and studying knowledge to comprehend it. And now as my path with agriculture and horticulture keeps expanding and increasing, I love it. There's an immense space in my heart for it where I recall, and it's, I feel like a little kid in a candy store of just picking up knowledge, and I'm loving botany and picking up on different plants and the species and how they interact and the lands where they come from too, and the soil, how different plants and roots may grow in different soils as well.
And so when was the first time you got into that?
I would have to give my grace and thanks to cannabis. Yeah, cannabis has been a medicine that majorly helped me open my heart, helped me recall myself, feel myself, and she helped me heal. Yeah, helped me heal a lot. Emotionally, helped me feel myself, connect more.
And so you work with, or do you work with like landscaping or some kind of study of that now, or?
Negative, no.
Okay.
I'm just studying right now. So
Gotcha.
I have the privilege of working with a few universities and colleges in the area.
Okay.
So I'm just in a student mode right now, picking up knowledge and gaining wisdom on different plant structures and how to connect. And it's important for me to maintain native species and plants to their native lands. So being able to study the Central Texas plants and work with them and work with beautiful landscapers and architectural designers who are focusing on studying, keeping native plants native to their area for what I see as the health of it. So we can't really come and grow a bunch of like bamboo in an area, or in this case, I believe the cedars, so there's several invasive cedars, and that bring a unbalance to a certain area, whether it be a green belt or something at a larger scale.
Yeah. It's funny talking to you now, like versus at the event, because when you're telling us how you were studying agriculture and all that stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, now talking to you, it's like, wow, it makes sense. Like you can definitely see the passion you have for nature, for plants, for life. So it's funny. It's like, oh my gosh, it makes a lot of sense. So, well,
No, go ahead.
okay. Just out of curiosity, like this is like a subject that I know almost nothing about. So when it comes to plant life and like all the things you're studying, especially is like the things you're studying, is it mostly does it mostly involve like Texas like agriculture, or?
At the moment, I'm at like basic beginner stages of learning.
Okay.
So it's going down to the basic comprehension of plant cellular biology and learning like enzymes and their cellular walls. And it's pretty cool how similar they are to our vascular systems as well, and our cells. And there is slight differences in how things operate. But it's just cool to observe it from that molecular biological level. And I had some hesitation at first to go back to school at my age. I'm only 28, but to come back and be in a beginner level of education to comprehend this, and I'm loving it completely. It's definitely coming from a place of passion, and it feels like a blessing to be able to receive this. And I also have major midterm and long-term plans of where to take this and how to bring structure and advance technology in many levels. There's a lot of what I call cookie cutter actions being placed in society now that I observe are being done out of what may possibly be greed or a collection of more of something, instead of being just that much more in tune and aware of being able to work with a structure, being able to work with a material that to help us build our true objective.
So what about like the microbiology of a plant? Would you say is similar to a human being? If you can give like an example.
Yeah, I would have to say just like the basic skin structure. So we grab like a skin cell from the epidermis, and theirs operates pretty similar. Like they have a cell membrane as well. And as they go into the enzymes and the chloroplast, it's cool how it resonates to our skin cells and our different layers and our blood, and being able to see how their organ systems look pretty cool and identical to like our intestines as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool when it gets down to like the molecular level of how there are similarities.
Wow.
And obviously we operate differently. We consume different minerals and vitamins than they do.
Sure.
They go through photosynthesis. We have a different process of receiving energy.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, when I first learned about how like your pancreas works with insulin production, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 8th grade, and the doctors were telling me, they were like, yeah, so basically what happens is your pancreas produces insulin cells they're sort of like the keys that unlock the energy to the carbohydrates that you eat so your body can use it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then they're like, and so basically what type 1 diabetes is a condition where all of a sudden your white blood cells, instead of attacking entities in your body that were going to make you sick, for some reason, they think that the insulin producing cells in your pancreas are the enemy. They literally start attacking and killing your insulin cells, which is why it's so difficult for parents to figure out their kid has type 1 diabetes, because it happens incrementally, where you have less and less and less insulin production. And the symptoms are relatively general in the sense of like extreme thirst, going to the bathroom a lot, cramps, like it's just, okay, the kid's sick or, dehydrated or whatever. But the body like actually can't use the water. It can't use the food. And so it just goes back into your bloodstream more and more and more until the point of where most parents have their kids go into a diabetic coma because their blood sugar is so high. And it was just fascinating that that's just such a small aspect of your body and how your body works, but it has massive implications for your life when it doesn't go right. And thankfully, thank God that we have artificial insulin, or else I would have been dead in like a year in like the 1800s. So I'm super grateful for that. But I was fascinated just like you were at that time on that production.
Gosh, I feel like that's scary nowadays for a kid to go through something like that with how many just like drugs that you can give. I just imagine like how easy it is for your kid is like acting up because he's crazy thirsty or something.
Yeah.
And like you just don't really know what it is.
No.
You're like, oh, he just give him Benadryl or something,
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So are you taking these classes at ACC or online somewhere?
Correct. Yeah, I'm at ACC
Nice.
at their Elgin campus. It's a beautiful plot of land there where they have the opportunity to be able to educate on agriculture, and they have beautiful Brahman cows there and beautiful baby sheep that we get the experience to interact with, and we get to actually have our hands in the soil and plant and transplant from seedlings to grow in a greenhouse, and then how to transplant it into the soil and be aware of the temperature and the climate changes of how to protect them and work with them.
Wow,
It's pretty awesome stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And my love for agriculture actually came through food, like just being a foodie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Really?
not gonna lie. Yeah.
What's
it's,
your favorite food?
I believe it comes down to a memory, right?
Mm.
Kind of like Ratatouille, the film,
Yeah.
right? Where he goes back
Yeah.
and he sees himself as a little kid about to eat this
Mhm.
dish. It comes down to memories. So I can recall probably a dish that my grandmother made for me called like ropa vieja,
Hmm.
where it's a shredded meat or protein, and it's made in with just a side of like rice and beans, and it's just that's my like nostalgic home
Dude.
dish.
Yeah.
And everyone has that inside, no matter how far back they have to go to. There's always that one dish, and it's something so simple, and it's a staple of Cuban culture.
Mm.
And I've had amazing 5-star dining meals in Italian countries and Spain, and as I've traveled the world, I've eaten great restaurants, and at the same time it just goes back to like that one memory.
Yeah.
And if I think about it truly, it's the love that individual placed, the energy that was placed into making that meal. Like there's nothing like a mother's love, like a grandmother's connection in that energy. So
True.
that energy that was placed, the intention of nourishing a loved one, of taking care of a loved one, that goes into that. It's felt and it's received.
Mhm.
Even to this day, like when I go back to Florida, like grandma's house is a must. Like it's a stop that has to be done no matter what.
Man, that's awesome.
So is it true that like in Italy, the pastas, the breads, are the cheese, like it's not nearly as, like you don't get nearly as tired and lethargic, right, as you do here when you eat Olive Garden or something like that. Like it's much more natural and fresh. Is that true?
It is. It is. I'm not into the politics. I don't fully have knowledge on what they allow in the European Union
Mhm,
versus the American administration, how it's currently set up with the food. What I do observe though is my neighbor, my literal neighbor when I was in Italy, was my grocery store market. I would open my front door and there would be a full garden that the gentleman who had been living there for several decades, and he had a full garden that he would walk out to every morning with his pup, and he would tend to his garden, and he knew what he was growing. And just to be that close to the nutrition and the consumption of the energy that we're intaking is beautiful.
Mhm.
It's that is the source.
Yeah.
Instead of receiving flour from another country that may have been processed and bleached, and we're that far separated from it in distance, but then we go into the processing of placing it into a box, a machine with not really a living soul, cutting and slicing a pasta into a specific form. There's nothing like doing that with the hands and the energy and the love that is being placed into just making a meal.
Mhm.
That's one thing that they have in Italy that's absolutely divine, is they honor the culture of family eating together.
Mhm.
They have something that, if I'm not butchering it, I believe is called siesta, which is during lunchtime, they have an extended lunch of about 2 hours or more, where children from school go home, and individuals from work go home, and they cook and consume together. They eat together.
Wow.
They spend that time to have that culture, that family, that consumption of energy. And it's a beautiful thing in culture that I think should be
incredible.
expressed worldwide.
Yeah.
would love to
Americans are too busy
experience
for that, man. Too busy. Too much going on.
That's the illusion. That's the illusion.
Dude, it's so true. Okay, so you mentioned that you, with this degree or these classes that you're pursuing, this knowledge that you're pursuing, you have midterm and long-term plans for those. You mind sharing what some of those are?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a vision of being able to provide clean and nutrition enriched meals for others. And what that looks like is hydroponically growing food that isn't connected with chemicals and pH balancers and certain man-made substances and compounds that may possibly enter our bloodstream and our body.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few ideas of how that is going to look and flow through. Obviously, as I observe consumerism and capitalism within this nation, I observe that it can only get up to a certain mass and a certain point. So there will be a point where it will have to be given to others and given to regions. So if I was to go to the territory of Virginia and say, hey, I would like to teach you this system and set it up for you to be able to provide nutrition for your region and your area. And then it gets a little bit more specific of what naturally grows there. Okay, and let's do the same there. And being able to have that trade without, I need bananas all year round, so we make sure we get them from South and Central America and have them here all year round because it needs to be. It's like, no, let's work with the seasons. If pumpkin is growing here at this time, let's consume it during this time and not completely abuse the system.
Yeah, like force it.
Exactly.
Yeah. What does it mean to grow a plant hydroponically?
Hydroponics. Yeah, so it's the system. Hydroponics is the system of using an indoor greenhouse environment to work with water to grow plants indoors. So it's usually, at the moment, it's done in like PVC platforms and PVC pipes.
Okay, yeah.
And have consistently observations of the nutrients and the waters that are going through to be able to grow it without extreme heat or extreme cold and XYZ. And
okay.
I believe this is a system that can be beneficial due to the land mass and the land that is currently available for agricultural production.
I actually have a question about that. I don't know if you would know, but years ago, I went to a flower shop with a friend in Florida. And this was such a long time ago. It was a friend of mine who was buying flowers like for his wife or something. And they were doing that. I didn't know at the time it was called hydroponics, but that's like in the flower shop they had like the PVC pipe and all over, flowers growing everywhere, plants everywhere. But they had this, instead of using soil, they use this other, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like little tiny like balls. And like it would be in a jar or something, it would just be full of it. And they were describing how it like worked way better than soil somehow. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I do, yeah. There's different systems to it and different people use different things.
Okay.
Basically it works as a filtration system and it allows nutrients to enter and exit for the plant to receive its nutrients and water and being able for its roots to grow up to the certain length that is within the space for it to be able to thrive.
Do you know what that stuff is called?
At the moment, it's slipping my mind.
Yeah, okay. But, I can't remember what it was either.
Yeah,
but it was like a big deal there. Like all the plants had it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was. I was curious about it. So yeah. So when did you get back from Ecuador exactly?
The exact time frame I can't recall. I do know I ended up back in Florida for a little bit and I decided to keep traveling, which I thought at the time was going to be from San Diego, and I wanted to take the PCH. No, I apologize. I thought I was going to start up in Vancouver and take the PCH down to like San Diego and travel the West Coast and do that route. And although I did end up traveling to Vancouver Island, and I spent some time there, specifically on Gambier Island with a beautiful brother who gave me his space, and we were able to just live on the land and survive and be out there taking showers in the ocean every day. And it was just amazing. It was Vancouver Island and that beautiful region is absolutely like God sent. It's divine place. And I went during the summer. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I did not experience the winter there. I will give them that. They say I heard it gets cold. Haven't been there for it, but the summer was absolutely amazing. And I actually learned how to surf there on the West Coast. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, that was a great time.
That's awesome. Wow. I just watched this video. I was telling Zach about this guy in Newfoundland who bought an abandoned cabin that's been abandoned for 8 years, and basically spent. The video was him spending 6 months cleaning it out and making it livable, but it still doesn't have any running water, electricity. But I was looking at the scenery and I was just like, man, it's just beautiful there, beautiful. And the next video I watched, it was winter, and I was like, whew, man, that's a different story. It's still beautiful for sure, but a different level of accessibility.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's awesome. Definitely would love to travel more like that for sure. I think a lot of people in their 20s have that desire. We talked to a guy named Kevin who has traveled a ton as well, and he shared some really, really fun stories about that too, of his travel experiences.
Yeah. So when was it that you actually moved to Texas?
I got to Texas from one of my last stops, which was in South California. Was there for a bit doing work exchange programs, just working on some lands, and I spent some time in hostels just connecting with people and living the beach life and experiencing great food. And I want to say December of 2023, right? Yeah, December of 2023, I drove to Austin from LA.
Jeez.
And
That's a drive.
that was an amazing motorcycle ride.
He drove a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Dude, I bet that was insane.
Took my Road
Gosh.
King quite a bit on the southwest of the country, and it was a great ride. It was amazing. Just
Did you go
being out there with.
What all did you go through? Did you go through the Grand Canyon and all that?
I didn't go that far north.
Okay,
No,
okay.
Yeah, I kind of took a straight shot.
Okay, gotcha.
And it just being on the road, like with the wind hitting and playing music sometimes, just not playing music sometimes, and connecting with the environment. It's a beautiful experience. I highly recommend it. Everyone has to. If you don't want to ride a motorcycle, definitely get a trike or something and experience the road. Like, this country has amazing viewpoints, and I have not gone through 60% of it yet, and I am so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing time. Yeah, I would have to say, like, just going through like the plains of New Mexico, being able to look in every direction and then just seeing so much beauty and different landscapes and seeing sand dunes that I haven't seen before on the West Coast was pretty cool.
Wow.
Like, you mean like the White Sands National Park?
No. Just going from like over Cali, like South Cal.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my first time
yeah.
seeing like sand dunes like in the States, and I was like, this is really cool.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
So you've only been in Austin for like a year or so.
Yeah,
Two-
I'm actually
year and
gonna
a
hit a
half, 2
year
years.
and 2 weeks.
Wow.
So actually, I got here December 23rd, and I left my motorcycle here, and I was like, okay, I'm moving here. This is it. This is where I'm setting a foundation. Like, it felt great. It was an absolute yes. Met amazing people during my time here. Left my motorcycle, and I finished. Traveled a little bit more. I went to, I believe the order of the stops were Maui, Cuba, and Ecuador.
So that's not just a little bit more.
Yeah. There was a few more travels. Just to me, the time period was a bit shorter. It wasn't like the length of where I traveled before.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's beautiful experiences that I was able to attend, and I was invited to attend men's retreats, and that was amazing to just be in that culture, specifically of Maui, and the brothers who host those retreats on that land provide much love and much appreciation, and the extension of their connection with the land and working with the elements as well was just heart-filling for me. I was able, given the beautiful privilege of helping a chef out provide meals for this retreat, and I was so honored, like, to be able to work with their laulau, which are their leaves, and being able to see their beautiful cultures and their food and how they make it and the deliciousness behind it. It's just was an absolute blast.
Wow.
So it sounds like in your travels, it's sort of a mix of you either you're like, I'm just going to go somewhere and figure it out. And a mix of, well, maybe you're probably staying in different places, hostels, or you maybe have friends there that you're going to go stay with, or you make friends there. And then maybe a little bit of retreats and stuff and work programs mixed in there. Is that what you would say? Is there one primary way that you're traveling, or is it kind of a mix?
No, I would say it was kind of just winging it.
Okay.
I think those are the only 3 trips that I really planned. I planned those airplane rides from Austin to Maui, Maui to Cuba, Cuba to Ecuador. And that was mainly to see loved ones and families.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, okay, those are the 3 that I'm going to knock out before I just settle and stop traveling for a little bit. And that was really just to connect with family, again, going back to roots and being able to experience beautiful, holy days with them.
Yeah. Okay.
And
nice.
my pop's birthday, I do my very best to spend every year at least once with him and jump in a water source, whether it be an ocean, a spring, something like that. And so that's what I was able to align during that time frame from December till I finally got here in March. March of 2024.
Okay. Nice. And so you're sort of like settling down, and then you have some kind of job, right? Too, or
correct?
Did you run a call when I met you the other day?
Oh right, yeah, that was separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
The agricultural technology is something I'm super interested in, and I have beautiful experiences of learning with, like I spoke earlier, the universities that have a few offers that they've extended to me. So I'm just observing right now which project is best for my route.
Wow.
And yeah, I have a beautiful brother down here in Central Texas who is a brain when it comes to biomedical technology, and he wants to incorporate agricultural technology and bring it together to expand in health and food production, and I mean back to like just the health of the body in terms of physical, in terms of red light, in terms of fitness. And my passion is in the food and agriculture side, so that's where my heart's at and where I'm comfy at. And my goal is to be able to provide that for others. So, you know, by the grace of God, in the next few quarters, that can be operational and running. And I don't get too excited on future opportunities because being in the presence where it's at, but I definitely plant those seeds and I envision it. I see my midterm, I see my long-term plan. And it's like, okay, that's beautiful. That's where we're headed towards. And we go back to the present. And it's like, let's experience this moment.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't remember if you told me this at the party or the event, but how did you end up there?
I was just gonna ask.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. The event, through beautiful Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah Morel. She's,
of course.
How did you meet her?
I met her in Lamppost actually.
Oh, what?
Oh, really?
Down in Round Rock. I was in there with a friend and she walked in and we both had our hair like fully out. I didn't have it braided up and we were both just mains out. And I like saw her come in and like just the attraction of her hair and like she was promoting an aura, and I was like, there's something there. I had to have a conversation with her. So I finished like ordering up, and through the beautiful little Stella, she was just there, and we interacted, we had a conversation, and it was just like an immediate connection there of like that we have
Revive.
something to do here.
Yeah,
Like, there was something there, and we connected, and we didn't get to catch up that day. And Creator put me in Round Rock for a reason. I wasn't really sure of why, and I'm in my 20s, could be downtown, you know, Rainy Street, living that life, and it's not what's currently resonating with me. And I'm currently in this little suburban neighborhood, kind of living that life, doing the Sprouts thing and heading downtown, and I love it. There's something about that region and that vibe that is calling me there and attracting me there. And I didn't really comprehend why till, you know, things started to unfold, and I see beautiful things coming.
So what? Sarah just hit you up. Was like, "Hey, we're doing an event."
Yeah, we've stayed in contact during
Yeah.
her hundreds of flights and travels, and
Wow.
we've been able to just stay in contact, and she extended an invite to the space, and
That's awesome.
Mm.
You said you're doing like the Sprouts thing. What is that like? You mean like the store?
yeah, just the
Oh,
grocery
nice.
store.
Awesome.
Yeah. I
Dope.
tend to do farmers markets much more. I have a list of farmers markets that I prefer to hit, but
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, sometimes I need some fruits and frozen fruits to jump in for my
Yeah,
smoothie.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one thing I'm curious about is what you said your parents grew up religious. So, do you mind sharing like what they kind of believed in, what their faith revolved around?
yeah, I wouldn't really say they were religious as in like an every Sunday kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah, but my father definitely always had the Bible open,
Okay.
and his grandmother definitely taught him how to read scripture, and he always held his heart connected to that, as well as my mother. She came from a Catholic upbringing
Gotcha.
and found her own faith with, you know, the Christ conscious and Jesus and that form, and it's been a beautiful thing to observe throughout my life and not be forced into that environment or be like, hey, this is the way and this is the only thing that is and this is what we do.
Mhm.
So I was able to come across connections with source and different masters who came before us and before I that I've been able to tap into at my own pace rather than words be shoved into me and not fully comprehended
Yeah,
like
for sure.
like my current adult mind may comprehend at this moment.
Yeah. So did your parents like did you guys attend like a church regularly or just not really? Or
No.
Okay.
No, yeah. My mom has always been connected with a few,
Yeah.
you know, sisters that she would connect with and loves her connection with this.
Yeah. So it's much more
Bible.
just like a personal faith, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I've been to a few services as a teenager,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I've gone, but it didn't really click or connect. And we know how that goes with different organizations
Yeah.
and churches. And
And so for you, it wasn't until like what was it really about that moment? Because you mentioned how you went to several churches, you know, and had kind of experienced that. Then it wasn't until that moment in Barcelona,
mhm.
right, where you felt like you experienced this creator or whatever. Like, what was it that you felt that you knew that there was like? So okay, sorry, let me rephrase it. So before that, did you believe that there was like a creator or kind of like a higher power already?
Mhm.
Or we're just kind of like not sure, or
I wasn't sure.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I wasn't certain. I didn't really comprehend prayer too well. In times, I guess I would speak with something, but there
Yeah, okay.
wasn't really a knowing. You know, there's a difference between thinking something and then believing. And there wasn't an absolute knowing at that time. It's just when I entered that infrastructure, I felt it. I felt it for the first time. And I just was in awe. Like in the door, it's, I believe, a bronze door, whatever the material may be, but Jesus is inscribed in gold. And I remember observing that and it meaning something different than before. And going in and just observing the infrastructure, the massiveness of it, it just felt different. And again, I've been in like dozens of churches and tours.
Yeah.
And there's beautiful centros and old antique places as you travel throughout Europe. And I'm just like, cool, history, cool. Like walking through, kind of just like, whatever. When's the time to go get some gelato or something?
Yeah.
And it was a different feeling walking into that environment.
Have you had experiences to that magnitude after that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, every time, I'm not gonna say every time, most of the times I tap into breath and self, it's to place myself back in that space. It's to go back into the feeling, into my heart space, ensuring any blockages or any energy that may be preventing me from that is washed away. So I can go back into that remembrance, whatever that may be for me at the time.
I have a lot of questions, dude.
I guess this could be like my final question. Do you think that is, I mean, I feel like I know the answer, but I would like to hear your perspective. Like, do you think that is an experience that everyone can have?
I feel as if we're living and we're breathing entities of life. We're all creations of our creator. There is a source we all derive from. I feel like we all have access to that. Everybody's path may not look the same. Everyone's path may be similar, and there might be that just one event, that one spark, that one time in their experience that they reach that feeling, that comprehension, that heart space. It's personally, I don't believe we should state this is the way in any shape or form. I believe by extending love and providing an act of service and an act of love, we're just guiding that individual in that direction. So it shouldn't be from I'm gonna do this for them because they need this. It should be like, I'm doing this because I love you.
Yeah.
And I want to share this with you, whatever that may be at that time, space. And I'm doing this from being in the moment. And that's just, if it's metaphorically a seed planted or water being given or a light extended for them that they may need at that moment, you know, that's not up here. That's not happening in the, oh, I'm thinking about this and this is what they need. It's just, I'm acting from here, allowing my heart to reach them, and let's continue this life. Let's do this path. Let's be.
Right. Not like a forced thing, like you're saying, truly coming from the heart, which that is something that Jesus was very big on as well. Yeah, very interesting.
Shout out to the boy Yeshua.
That's right, dude.
He knew his thing.
The GOAT.
Well, man, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. It's really amazing to hear all the things that you've been through and your journey of self-discovery. It's not always easy to share, or it's definitely a gift. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Making the time to come on.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
And hang out.
Thank you guys for the space, holding the container, and I look forward to connecting more.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm at Lampos all the time. So
yeah, same. I show up every once in a while.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Second Floor Experience, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
I want to talk to you. Not now. Later. No, now.